Good afternoon and welcome to our third in the series of GSDC Talent Webinars. This one, Human Resources, your strategic partner in business success. Kelly and I are so incredibly thrilled to present on this topic today. It is something that both of us are incredibly passionate about, and I'm extremely excited to have Kelly join me. She brings so much experience and passion around this topic. We realize that there may be hurdles that you are facing as you are trying to start up this type of structure within your organization, and hopefully today we'll be able to give you some ideas and some suggestions that might help you with that. So with that, I just want to introduce ourselves before we get started. I am Gail Cruikshank, Talent Director with the Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation, and with me today is Kelly Hanson. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources at Park Industries. So with that, just before we get started in the PowerPoint, I know we've got a few people still joining and logging in. I wanted to just run through a few housekeeping issues so everybody knows. Please be sure to submit questions in the poll box, and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar. So we want to make sure we get through all of this great content, so we will answer those at the end, but please jot them in whenever you think of it so we can be sure to address those. Also, no need to take notes and scramble and try and write everything down. You will receive a copy of the PowerPoint after the presentation. So certainly just sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. And lastly, at the very end of the presentation, we are going to issue you a very short survey, so you will be able to share your feedback. As Luke Reardon and myself have continued to plan these webinars, we want to ensure that feedback is information, it's topics that are pertinent to you that will help you in doing your job to really recruit and retain the top talent within your region. So with that, we are going to get started with our poll. So we're going to pull up a poll onto your screen, and we'd like you to submit your feedback as to how you would answer this question. So bear with us just a second here as that poll comes up. So as you can see, the question we want to ask the group is, tell us what response best describes human resources as a strategic partner within your organization. So click the box that most represents your situation within your employment at this point. Is everybody able to see the poll?
Marlene, it might have come up as an extra pop-out on your screen. Okay, perfect. Looks like you didn't fall out. Great.
So our IT expert over in the corner, Luke Reardon, is running the poll. So we will,
Right, about 77%. So we can wait till last one here, or we can close.
Well, we're seeing a good response, and I'm really pleased to see that so many feel they are a strategic partner within their organization. That excites us. And again, I know that looks very different within many different organizations, and that'll be something that we talk about during our conversation today as well. So thank you for sharing your feedback and how you feel your situation is right now within your employer. So as we talk about this topic and why is this partnership so very, very important, I think obviously you as HR folks on the phone are certainly aware of the important role you play, but really you are responsible for managing literally the most important valuable resource within the company, and that's human capital. Without those people within your organization, you simply would not have a functioning organization. And so, we want to make sure that that is elevated and that is realized about the work that you are doing and the role that you are playing. So a little survey that I had pulled from a research was they interviewed 700 executives in an organization with 200 plus employees and found that 70% of those human resource folks had a place at the board of directors, compared to just 41% back in 2004. So as we know we have opportunity to improve, this is a nice improvement, and it's encouraging to see that more and more leaders of an organization are really valuing that importance of human resources at that key location on the table.
You actually hear more executives now wanting HR to be there, but HR not playing the role that they need them to. So it really sits with us to take the ownership.
Absolutely. And so as we start to dive into this here, we wanted to first put together a list for you of how can you be viewed as more of a strategic partner within the organization?
Something that I've thought about and experienced over the last almost 20 years now from an HR perspective is it's very easy for HR professionals to want a seat at the table, but not really understanding the role we need to play. And first and foremost is really understanding the business you support. That's one of the things that I've heard time and time again is a strong business partner truly understands all aspects of the business. You obviously, a key focus for us is the people, but with the people is understanding the processes along with the business, the customer base, the market needs, and being able to have the ability to have that conversation with the leaders to meet them where they're at and present them with solutions to help them with those challenges.
Well, and again, I think we all get so kind of stuck in our little people pool and our little priority on our folks that, again, we don't think outside. We don't see that big picture. What is really driving the leadership of your organization? What are their key hot buttons? What are their key goals? You need to make sure, again, your goals as human resource goals are aligned with those business goals as well. So you're all moving in the right direction.
Well, that's just it. We should be coming alongside our leaders and what's keeping them up at night and what solutions do we have to provide them with to abate those concerns. If I talk to leaders today across all different organizations, industries, large and small, people is what's keeping people up at night, right? We don't have enough talent. So what are we doing within your organization to drive talent strategies for those leaders to be a little bit more at ease with those challenges?
And the last bullet on this slide here talks about that really your key focus, is that laser intensity to first securing that top talent and then retaining them and then finally developing their potential. We hear so many times about, I don't have a hard time hiring, but I keep losing them. Well, then you're a little bit short on either the retaining or the development piece, which we're going to talk about a little bit later too. So, and don't get too stuck on rules and policies and laws. This is where I think a lot of HR people get hung up, and I did early in my career. I remember a leader I worked for told me someday I'd understand what gray was like and understand the gray in the world. And that's really when you talk about people, everybody's situation is different. And if you put the person first and analyze the situation to make the right decision, absolutely,
that's something we're very fortunate to be able to do at Park with the culture we have. But every situation is different. Each person is different. So think more big picture with the decisions you're making around people, and then your retention will come alongside it as well.
Absolutely. And then as we roll on to the next slide here that Luke has highlighted, that role of advisor, again, we always want to play in the people part of it, and we don't always tie everything to numbers and really the analytic piece of it. And that's, again, a key element in building that partnership with your leaders is, if I do this or I invest in this sort of software or enhancement or this sort of program, what kind of dollars is it going to impact our organization and how and why and how soon and those sort of things. So you have to be, again, very thoughtful into how you present proposals that you would like, people that you want to hire. Maybe you want to go outside of the spectrum of the pay scale for a candidate, but you need to be able to sell why and how are they going to then bring value back to the organization.
This point is critical across all different levels of leadership. One of the things I've found in the last several organizations I've been part of is we've had to help teach not only the HR organization, but all leaders about the ROI. If you're asking for something, you need to understand the reason why it's good for the business and why we should be investing in those decisions. Whether, as Gail said, it's on the people side, it could be software, it could be, we talk sometimes about different shifts within the business. Well, what can I do to help show what the right decision is there? And HR needs to get more involved in understanding the numbers and the stories behind those numbers.
Absolutely. So as we roll on to the next slide, as you can see, this could probably be a full day conversation with Kelly and I, but we do want to share a lot of ideas and suggestions. And so as we know how important this culture is, how do you create that environment within your organization if you feel you don't have it? And first and foremost, it starts with culture.
Yeah, I had a conversation with another HR leader probably a year ago or so, and they were talking about employment branding and wanting to learn kind of what we've been doing from that perspective. And the very first question I asked her was, well, what's your culture like? And her response was, well, it's, kind of toxic. Well, you can't do anything until you work on that culture. So focus on the people. This is an easy piece to really get into. Are you getting out and talking to your employees or associates? At Park, it's as simple as getting out on the shop floor and having conversations, showing that you care, to hear what their needs are and how are you meeting them where they're at, and how are you displaying that need to your leaders within the organization. And that's where you tie not only the cultural needs to the financial returns of the business. I can show very easily, if I can retain 5 more associates per year, the value and the savings that helps Park with. So how can you get in and understand that? And if you have bad apples from a leadership perspective, what are you doing to manage them out of the business instead of continuing to tolerate that kind of behavior? And then I think the other part of that is, as you develop a culture, how are you promoting it out in the community? I think it's just critical that, what message are you sharing? Because now, as you're wondering about why are job seekers not applying at my organization, I think the very first thing you look at is culture. Job seekers are looking at websites, they're looking at feedback, they're looking at comments from employees or past candidates or whatever the case might be. So really take a look at how are you promoting your message once you have, you have a great story to tell inside those walls, but what are you replicating outside in the community and beyond? Well, you look at applicants today, it's almost 20 plus different points of contact they have with you before they actually even apply. And so they are looking for that. And you have to find a way, at Park, we have our referral rate is in the 60+% rate of all our hires are coming through a referral with a very small dollar amount tied to it. So it's not because of the money, it's because we have a strong culture and they want to bring somebody next, alongside of them. So what are you doing to promote that?
So the next piece of this puzzle after the culture is driving optimal performance and proficiency. So this really gets into the analytics and the numbers piece and really how are you that business partner within the organization?
Yeah, I would challenge you all to ask first, do you have an HR dashboard? Do you have a report that you're sharing with your leadership throughout the organization, what's happening within your organization on a continuous basis? And this is beyond the traditional metrics of turnover, but this is looking at, what's your ability to promote from within? What's your movement for careers? What kind of percentage of increases are you seeing? What's your retention rate? Not just for all associates, but maybe first-year associates. What data is important to your group or your organization, and what are you doing to report on that on a continuous basis? And be able to tell a story with it, because that's the other thing is, people might be able to get the data, but if you don't know the story behind the data and can't explain what you can do with the data, you're not serving a purpose there either. So you really want to make sure you're putting it out there and in front of your leadership.
Well, and Kelly, maybe share a little bit about how you look at people versus automation. Again, we do not want to downsize the importance of the people part, but in some situations, it can help with efficiencies, it can help with development of people.
Well, we see some really great opportunities to encourage the people to find the automation solutions. So some examples, just recently we had some challenges with cranes and with our new addition, trying to be able to see where the cranes are coming from. And we had a couple of associates that took it upon themselves to find a way for a sensor to notify them as they walk by for the crane to automatically stop. And it was the associates that did it themselves. And so now it's making them safer. They feel obviously much more valued because they were able to be empowered. So automation to me within businesses today is to help them be safer, to work smarter, to work more efficiently, and to help with not having the person next to them if we do have talent shortages. But oftentimes your employees want to be involved in finding that solution. And sometimes they already have the solution. We just haven't listened to them to implement it.
Well, and I can only repeat that piece. I mean, if I hear from disgruntled associates over and over and why they left an employer, it is because they weren't heard or they weren't appreciated. And again, not to expect that every single request they have is honored, But again, this is a solution that Park was able to make just by listening to their team. They didn't have to invest in a consultant to analyze it or anything like that. And so it makes a big difference. And again, you're showing that cost savings in the long run from that profitability and that efficiency. So the last of the three is focus on employee development that is right fit for your organization. And I really stress that right fit for your organization. Every company is so very unique, and you can't just take one company's development plan and implement it in another company. You are all very unique, and you really need to analyze what are the buttons that are going to be most effective, right, Kelly?
Well, that's just it, and it's coming into an organization, whether you're new to where you're at or you're growing into your role or you've been there for a while, it's first just assessing where do you need to develop, where do you have the most churn, or people that are maybe you're having less engagement scores are down, or they're saying I'm not getting enough training. One is just to find out why. One of the first things I've done in a couple different organizations is creating tiers or ladders within specific roles. So an example where I'm at today with Park is like welding as an example. If you only have a welder and that's it for a pathway for them, well, what encourages somebody to stay 10, 15 years and become, proficient in all different types of technologies? And so creating those ladders, but then also looking at right now we're all dealing with baby boomers exiting faster than, you want them to. So what are you doing from that perspective, one, to retain them, but then two, those gaps that are being left, what kind of training and development are you doing to help fill those for the future? So you do have to look at it more globally. What are the pain points within the organization, and then build it from there? And it's such a significant return for those associates that benefit from that training. Whether it is internal training that you're developing, if you're partnering with, and we have a number of great organizations here in the St. Cloud community to provide those training opportunities, but to be able to show your associates you're investing in them automatically gives them a significant investment in you as their employer.
Well, and I can't stress that word invest enough. I was reading an article just yesterday, and it talked about, everybody talks about that term of, the workforce shortage and that sort of thing. And this individual very clearly said it's not a shortage. It's, employers got to come to the table and they have to be willing to invest. And again, it all has to make financial sense. We totally get that, but there are ways to take advantage of all of the resources. There's partnerships that can be formed. We've got examples here in the region where 2 or 3 employers have worked together on a grant opportunity that they all benefit from. So there's a lot of things that our employers maybe aren't taking advantage of to, again, provide this piece, which is critical. Nobody wants to be in a job that they're going to be stagnant forever. They want to have some development, even if it's laterally. Don't be concerned that it has to be a promotion in the sense that it went from associate to supervisor or whatever your title structure might be. It's all about, giving them additional or different responsibilities to continue to develop them as an associate on your team.
And that return is so significant. I hear oftentimes, Gail, to your point, well, we can't afford it, we're small. How are we going to do it? I can tell you for the last several organizations, even when I was at Copeland's, very large organization, we built it internally. So our own internal resources as an HR team, we did the same thing at Park. We built it internally. So the only investment from a cost perspective for the business initially was the time. And that's a much smaller investment than if you're bringing in a consultant or somebody. But there are opportunities there's several different grant opportunities. We have wonderful colleges that we're surrounded by that are willing to come alongside and help us. So you can do it at a very minimal cost. But if you just calculate the cost of turnover for the people you're losing because you're not investing in them, I guarantee spending a little bit on that training is going to save a lot in the end. So,
well, and just 3 stats at the bottom of this slide that I think are worth repeating here. Again, if you have these three elements involved or in place in your organization, you're going to see 6 times greater engagement and retention, 12 times better business growth. Again, that's dollars to the bottom line, and 20 times better retention. So those numbers are staggering. And again, you can see the benefit. And that's, again, where you as that strategic leader need to display that to your leadership as to, again, putting numbers to it, because that's what's going to help you be heard, and that's going to make them listen to you as well as engage in some of the proposals that you're presenting.
And these are the stories you have to be able to tell. I will share at Park, and part of our dashboard Our retention is sitting at 92, 93%. Industry, if you look at market data nationally, retention, a good score retention is 82. So we're 10 percentage points higher than what's out there nationally. And I can say, because of all these things we're doing, you can see that we've made gains. Turnover is, we're in the single-digit turnover. Where do you hear single-digit turnover right now? And that has a lot. I can tell the story. I can show the improvements year over year with the things that we've been implementing. So that's what we have to do as partners, is be able to show that story and tell the value of what's happening within the business when you're making those investments.
Right. So as we move forward, what can you gain from this partnership? You as that HR leader, what's in it for you? What is going to take place within your organization if you do establish this sort of organizational flow?
Well, I have to kind of just chuckle because I was sharing with my 10-year-old daughter what I was doing today, and shared with her, I get to share with the world, the part of my job that I just love, right? I mean, having this partnership, one, is what makes me enjoy what I do every single day, because no day is the same. And when you can really be a partner with all the leaders within your business, it's not just up to my C-suite, it's across the organization, and how can I be the best partner for them, which sometimes is sacrifices for me, right? I have to put my agenda on the back burner to meet them where they're at. You can, from your having the increasing your engagement, we've shown that year over year at Park. Our engagement scores, we keep saying we can't think they could get any better, and they still do. And you can see that we're making improvements there. You can when you talk about collaboration across departments, this is where HR is looking for ways to better the business with where the business is at today. Where can we help them? Whether it's, engineering was foreign to me before I came to Park, and I never worked for an organization with engineering. And the more I can learn their struggle and come up with ways outside of the box, outside of all the rules and regulations to engage those individuals, it has a huge gain for the entire business. And the other piece that, many people have seen us, and we did it at Coburn's when I was there, and then now at Park, is really from the branding perspective. I mean, I think when I joined Park, I Googled the first thing when they were recruiting me, I Googled them, and there was nothing for Park, nothing for jobs, nothing. There's no social media presence at all. And Tanya on my team was asked, where are you going to go? Parks and Recreation, or, where is this coming in? Is a nursing home? So you have to be able to build that, which for us, 3+ years into this, recruitment's now, knock on wood, right, a lot easier for us because people know who we are, we know what we're about. And then you tie it to business growth, we've grown 300% over the last 5 years as a business. So all the numbers are telling the same story. You invest, you have fun with your people, you help meet them where they're at, empower them, and the returns are there, the engagement's there.
So as that valuable HR partner, these are a few things that Kelly and I put together that we really figured that you need to do to move this forward. So we just obviously, this could be a lot larger list, but we tried to really keep it concise as far as these are, I think, the key 4 elements that we'd like to share.
Yeah, and I think, for the first one, impact top line results, the number of conversations I've had over the years with HR and managers, I can't impact top line results, that's the sales team. Oh, I beg to differ, because the sales team can't sell anything if you're not doing your job, right? So the people have to be creating the quality product. We have to be looking at the ways that we can represent ourselves in the community as a business. Park, we sell through the U.S. and Canada, but even for our, down to a welder again at Park, they have a direct impact for our top line results and the decisions they're making on a daily basis and how they're preparing our product, their welds, if you will, for the quality of our machines. So you have to be able to understand how you can directly impact the top line results, but not only you, but your team and everybody within the organization. As we talk, different incentive programs as an example, as an HR professional, you have to be able to tell that story of here's what you can do. So you have to think,
you can make that difference.
Yeah, you have to think differently. Having an organization where people want to make a difference, and you can encourage that through your culture. If people talk about high performance, I'm like, I can't, this company doesn't allow that. Yes, any company. I don't care who's at your helm, right? I mean, you can help show them that the more you engage, the more you empower, people want to do well naturally. They just want to have that ability to do that. So the seat of the HR leader or partner, in my opinion, is to be able to find a way to fuel that and really encourage it within the organization. And then look at ways to transition. You hear HR all the time, it's a cost center. I can't get any funding. I don't have no budget. I've never been in an organization where I've been told no, because I usually come to the table with an analysis first. I don't just ask for the money, I tell the story and the business case that goes with it. When you look at ways you can add value to the business, I mean, there's grant opportunities, first of all. So you can bring money into the organization. As many people know, we were just a recipient of the big MGSP grant. Well, that was a way for me to say, here, I just funded, a bunch of our training investments, looking at how you're spending money within your team, renegotiating contracts you've had in place for a long time, making sure it's the best for your associate or your employee base. But look for ways you can add value to the business. If you're driving down turnover, rising up your retention, looking at the numbers by year, who you're losing, you're going to pay for yourself. And then your leaders are going to see that you actually understand the business and what you can do to make a difference to drive the business forward.
Well, and that's truly where you need to start, is you need to change that perspective of who you are. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, how you see yourself within the organization and how you're being listened to from those leaders. And again, bringing the numbers and the analytics to go with it is going to, again, you're speaking at their language, like we've talked about. So as the next slide talks about it, so let's get started with how do we provide, this type of situation in our employers. So again, we've talked a lot about we need to be proactive rather than reactive. I know I have in my past life been in situations where all it was continuing to react to, there's another opening, we need to add this and we don't have the people. And again, you have to get out in front of it. And I think that's one of the key initial startup steps, right, Kelly?
Yes, I think this is one of the biggest excuses, and it really is that I hear from other HR professionals. Because yes, is there a lot of administrative work within HR? For sure, but what are you doing about it? Mm-hmm. Implement lean within your HR organization. Back years ago when I was at Essler, I remember one of the things they required I sign every single employee change form. Why? Right? So that was one of the first things to go. Save me an hour a day. Get rid of these forms. I don't need it. What value does that have on the business? So as you start thinking a little bit more with a lean or efficiency kind of mindset, what are you doing to add value in the business? And if you're not adding value on the business, why are you doing it, first of all? So that will free up your time. And then how are you spending your time? Are you sitting in meetings you don't need to be in that aren't adding value? Are you engaging in the conversations you need to? Because if you're reactive, constantly putting out the fires, granted that's real, right? It happens. But you still need to manage your time to allow the time to be thinking forward, meeting the business where it's at. Because if you really are trying to be a partner in the business, I guarantee those leaders are thinking 3 to 5 years out, and they're not thinking about what they're doing to get through today. And so you need to try to find a way to get there.
Well, and you need to, again, set aside time for yourself to be planning into that mindset. You can't just automatically sit down and throw out a strategic plan. You need to, again, allow yourself time to get into that right mindset, to really let your brain come up with those creative ideas, reach out to partners that maybe they can share an idea that they have found successful within their organization. You need time to yourself to plan that as well. And I think it's critical that, I know we can all get caught in I got so much to do and everybody's coming at me, but you need to schedule yourself accordingly. We know it's not a matter of that our HR folks are not working 110%, but you need to get smarter with what you are investing your time in and maybe how you can shift that a little bit. It's so funny to me, I get a lot of comments to say, I'll be the one to ask, well, why are you doing that? And they're like, well, we've always done that. Well, again, to Kelly's point, if it's not truly adding value, then look at a way to either eliminate it or streamline it so you have more time to do other things.
And I'd also ask, are you taking time to meet with your leaders to ask them what their challenges are? I have frequent one-on-ones with my peers across the organization to say, what can I help you with? What are your biggest struggles? Where do you need me focusing on? Instead of what's on my agenda and my goal list, what's your need? And then I'm able to come to them with solutions. And sometimes it's not me, but you know what? I just talked to the controller yesterday, and he has a really good idea that we brainstorm on a totally different related topic, but you two should connect. And just being that connector for them and offering that solution is really helping you get more to that proactive space as well.
Well, it might even be connecting them to another employer to say, hey, I was at a meeting and this very topic came up, and I know this employer just had a successful experience doing this very same thing. Let me connect you to whoever.
It's very much that. I was at the Manufacturers Alliance award ceremony back in April, and one of the recipients does something that we do at Park, a piece of it. And I came back and talked to our top level leader in that area saying, did you know that this technology exists? And he's like, huh? You know, I had no idea. I'm like, here's their business card, here's the information. Contact them. This could be a huge opportunity for us. And so it is thinking outside of that. It wasn't in my little box of HR, right? But I saw this opportunity from a business perspective and brought it forth.
And that just continues to add value to the role you play. And so in our next slide, we actually have a diagram of a desired transformation of HR within an organization, and it's actually the transition that Park Industries took. And so I wanted Kelly to just highlight this for you as to how they went from more transactional to that business partner.
Yeah, so this slide actually I've used now, oh my goodness, probably 13 years. So this isn't new. This is all the way back when I was at Esler, and we implemented the business partner model there. And really, and we worked with a very expensive consulting firm to help transition the HR body, if you will, at Esler to this really to a true business partner model with centers of excellence. And we all really are starting on the far left and transactional. We are working on informing of policies and procedures. You're enforcing them, very reactive. You're caught in the day-to-day. Can't really see, you know, above the pile on your desk, if you will. But then as you consciously decide that you want to get out of that, one, I share this with all the leaders in the business. This is where we're at today. We're 100% transactional, and within whatever time frame, usually it's 3 to 5 years, because you can't just get to business partner tomorrow. This is where we want to be, and this is the steps we're going to take. So next is moving slowly into the consultant kind of phase. Now you're advising. You're not telling them what to do, but you're advising them, giving them solutions, but you're still looking more inward in HR and being reactive. This is when I say you're building out that HR foundation so you can get to the strategy side of it. And then as even Park, we're not 100% business partner yet. I just presented this to our board of directors in June and shared with them that we're not 100% all the time business partner. I'm functioning in that role, but my team's not there yet. And my goal is my whole team is there as well. It's not just me in my role, it's all of us. And so it's looking at how are we driving strategy forward within the business, and not HR strategy, business strategy. We're looking outward 3 to 5, 10 years even, you know, working with the C-suite leaders saying, where should we be going? What should we be looking at? And being very proactive with what we're coming to the table with. So this is a slide you can use to talk through that and show the business how you could operate very differently. But you have to be willing to do the work from transitioning. The biggest amount of work is from transactional to consultant, building that foundation, getting the processes in place, having the right HR systems, eliminating all that waste that you're doing that's not value added to the business to allow you then to spend time and really working on the strategy.
And one thing I want to go back to a little bit is, again, as you get all of these employees engaged and looking more strategically, some of the best ideas come from the freshest perspective. Again, somebody that may be in the human resource arena, but sees this great idea that goes to leadership and says, I saw this, or I heard about this, or whatever the case might be. Sometimes that fresh perspective is the best. We all get so into our own buckets and areas of focus that sometimes just that, well, have you guys ever thought about this, becomes the newest and greatest idea. So the next slide talks about how do you, questions to ask your HR team. So we wanted to really put together some things for you to think about. Now, as you talk about your HR team, you might be a team of one, you might be a team of many. But we thought these were good questions, and maybe it's just a conversation that you have with your human resource team just to kind of see where you're at. So starting off here, it's like, how do we go about developing company culture that will attract potential employees? You know, if you feel you're not getting that return from your candidates yet, talk through that as a group as to how you might be able to successfully do that. How do you grow your knowledge of the business? This is critical. I mean, if you don't have those relationships with your leaders, ask them, you know, can you just tell me more about the business? I mean, I would really doubt that there are any that would not engage in time. It might be, again, working with their schedule, be sensitive to that. But again, they want to see that you're engaged in finding out about what does our business really mean, and not just the human resource only focus.
And read trade publications. I'm sure that was one thing when I came into Park. I never worked in the industry we're in here, and asked my leader, Joan, and, you know, do you have any trade publications I can read as well? And when you're in meetings and you don't understand, don't be afraid to ask, because they actually appreciate that you're paying attention and you're asking questions to have better knowledge of what they're talking about.
So, whoops, back up a sec there. So, professional development opportunities, what are you doing for your team as far as, offering them ways to grow? Are they involved in organizations? Are they able to go to trainings or webinars or whatever it might be? Are you maybe partnering them with somebody that could be a mentor either in your organization or outside? Some of my best mentors were not in my employment company specifically. Again, so looking at ways that you can always develop your team.
And you should be developing them to, honestly, it's in HR, and I share this with my team, it's either to take my job or to go somewhere else for the next level that they're looking for. I don't want to lose them, but I want to continue to grow their skill sets. And often in HR, if they're not a generalist, they're specialized in one area to help them grow and expand. We're moving around offices, and we strategically put team members by each other that need to develop from each other and can share knowledge with one another, because the greater you can grow them, the greater they can add value to the business. And we, for the first time, have put together, if you will, true business partners where they're aligned with a VP level leader, and they're supporting them across the board on what their needs are so they can grow their body of knowledge as well.
And then, again, we've talked about this before, streamlining processes and systems. Again, do some research, reach out to some partners, HR partners. We've got a lot of human resource groups within the St. Cloud area that meet on a regular basis. You've got employers that you can reach out to that you've maybe met at events or activities. Share ideas. Again, the best idea isn't always something that's brand new. It might be reinvented for you. And then again, we've talked about how can you be that partner to drive business growth within your organization.
And one of the key partners I've found within organizations that is always the most difficult for HR, but I have found the most valuable, is becoming a sidekick with whoever's head of finance. Because they see us as a cost center generally. But as you can get there with them, I have a phenomenal relationship with our controller at Park, and it wasn't easy, and we often disagree, but I can help him understand what I'm doing, and I can help him show the financial return, but he can also help me think of things in a way I never would. And so finding a strong partnership or alignment with them is critical, because when I think about streamlining processes and systems, there's so much we do in HR that crosses over to a finance or payroll. Payroll is not part of HR. And how can you streamline those processes together and be a strong negotiator? When you have contracts, I have so many HR people say, well, I'm just doing most of what they said. I'm sorry, but I've never accepted a contract for the price that comes to me first time, right? I'm that way personally, and I'm that way professionally. Negotiate so it's a win-win, because you don't want to negotiate so it's difficult for your vendor either, but you want to make sure it's a win-win for both sides. So make sure you're doing that and really explaining to your vendors as you're going down these different contracts what you're looking for in them. And then they can come together with a more competitive price as well.
So these were questions to ask your team. The next slide talks about a couple questions to ask yourself. And we've kind of talked about these already. But again, you can look through them as far as, how are you viewed within the organization, and why do you feel that way? And what opportunities do you have? And how can you take maybe some of the information we've shared today and adjust that a little bit? Anything else?
Yeah, one of the things to do too with this, and within any organization, there's some leaders that are a lot easier to become a partner with, right?
Absolutely.
And there's other ones that are just either the personalities are so different or the thought processes or whatever. So take time to, my perspective is build up the easy ones first, because then you have those relationships in place, and then continue to figure out how you can be a better partner with those that you don't have that strong relationship with, because oftentimes in HR, you're viewed, and I've heard this in organizations, the police chief is in town or something like that. Well, you shouldn't be viewed as that person. So how are you coming across? I had associates at Park a couple weeks ago saying, who you really are and who we thought you were are very different. So I'm like, well, yes, because when I'm HR, we all feel we have to show up a certain way when we're at work, and who we are personally is different. But the more you let them know who you are personally, this is a job, just like their job is a job. But that you're there to help the business be better, help them enjoy their job more, to truly listen and care. You reap the benefits tenfold.
Well, and again, don't back down from those, what we call difficult ones. Make it a challenge to yourself. It's like, I am going to form a relationship with this leader one way or the other. And again, they're going to appreciate that persistence. They're going to, that drive, that desire to really be a part of the the strategic plan and package of your organization.
And the biggest takeaway on that one, Gail, we have an executive coach that we work with, and what he shared with me in those kind of relationships, for my personality, is I have to meet them where they are, not where I feel they need to be, or where I see them, because I see them, somewhere different, right? And so you have to meet them where they're at. When you meet them where they're at and help them where they are, that partnership is so much stronger than assuming they need to be somewhere different than they are. You help them get there through a strong partnership.
So we're going to jump to the next slide, as I know we're running on that 40-minute time frame here. So this is just an example of a pyramid. There's two different examples on here, and really the question to you to think about, what does your pyramid look like within your organization?
Yeah, and where are you spending your time? How much are you spending your time on, as you can see here, on the administration side versus the strategy side, and consulting the business? And you can do this through, a lot of it is outsourcing, it's upskilling, it's getting the right systems in place, or using the right kind of technology to drive the right kind of processes in place. And making sure that you're engaging your leaders. If I look at the time we spent coaching leaders 3 years ago at Park to where we're at today, we've equipped them with the tools to be effective leaders. We don't have to tell them now how to handle these situations. They know, because we coach them, we mentor them, we train them. So our time now is spent, on the the top half of that, leading pyramid and consulting, planning, and driving strategy, because we've equipped them.
Absolutely. And again, don't get caught in that, it's HR's job to do all of the discipline, or all of the this, or all of the hiring, even all of those things. It is that leader, that supervisor that, again, needs to be engaged with their associates. So again, it frees up time for you to be more on that consulting and planning side.
That's like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Exactly.
That's the HR's job. I'm like, no, my job is to support you, and I'll support you where you need it. But your job is your people, and I'm here to support you in that. So it's really having a different thought process with it. Is we're not here to do that for you, because you are the one that needs to work with them. You're the one that needs to be comfortable with who you're hiring, and but we can bring you the right people if you work with us to tell us what that looks like.
And on the next slide, we highlight, where do you spend your time? I thought this was a great visual, again, to really think about what does it look like for you, and what maybe might it better look like if you do a few tweaks, changes along the way.
And this is a good one to, put a dot where you think you're at today, and then put a dot where you want to be, and then really figure out the steps you're going to take to get there. Because I see kind of the two types of traditional HR professionals. They're either spending all their time administratively, or they have the revolving door where they're actually the counselor, if you will, at the place of work, and they're just constantly in conversations. So how do you shift, really, you want to be really between the strategic partner and the change agent. With time focusing, you can't lose focus on the employee champion piece of it. And there's always going to be administrative, but your time should be spent on the upper two quadrants of this. So what are you going to do to shift it? Which is changing your thought processes more than anything.
Absolutely. So in summary here, we've put together really our four, directions, our feedback, as far as these are really what we feel will enable your human resource team to play a strategic role within your organization. Obviously, number one, understanding the business. We've talked about that many times throughout our conversation today. Just critical in them really looking at you as that strategic leader and person at the table. Tactical human resources, and what we mean by that is, again, right people, right job, right time, with focus on retention and engaged talent. This is a big part of our job. Again, if you have the right people doing the right job, it's going to make everything easier. And then having those retention and engagement, initiatives in place, which are going to really motivate your staff. Foundational organizational development. This is, again, creating that environment that allows your employees to function at their fullest potential. Again, nobody wants to just be, I'm going to my job because I have to. How many of your associates say, I'm going to my job because I'd love to, and I really want to be there? And lastly, partnerships. And we've talked about this throughout the presentation today, but understanding what it means to become a partner and perform at that level. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to be at that level where I want to be there. You have to prove yourself. And as Kelly alluded to, understanding personalities, styles, learn how to listen. I mean, I think a lot of us come in, it's like, oh, we've got all the answers, and, just listen to me, I've got the perfect resolution. we need to listen. And I think, again, that is something that we gain a lot of respect from if we are not doing currently. And then develop those relationships and identify where you can add significant value. It's going to be different with each leader. It's going to be different from time to time. But those partnerships are critical.
Yeah, and the one biggest takeaway I could give you all is to really think about where your organization could really benefit from your involvement and finding that strong partnership with the top level leaders and then working your way throughout the organization, but never forgetting that your people are your most important asset in the business. And if you put that first, along with the business strategy, it's always going to be a win-win.
And again, I would just add that where they need you most might not be in your favorite spot immediately. But again, if you dig in and take care of that immediate need, then you can circle back to maybe some of those other goals that you might have as far as where you see your organization growing to. So with that, obviously, we're at that time where we want to open it up for questions in just a minute. But obviously, this was just the tip of the iceberg as far as our human resource strategic partner conversation. And we're really excited. I am lucky enough to have Kelly with me again and co-chairing our upcoming Talent Summit along with Mary Swingle coming up in September. And this topic will be a topic again in one of our workshops, and it is called, right there you'll see the list of the breakout sessions, Your Most Critical Asset, Talent Leadership. And the Talent Summit this year is going to be different. It is focused only for our employers. Our goal is to provide resources, information, connections, ideas on how to assist with recruiting and retention of top talent. And it is a half-day seminar, or half-day event, We really are looking to have C-suite, so CEOs, business owners, along with our HR professionals in attendance. It is at Rivers Edge Convention Center from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. The breakout sessions are listed there, and I can honestly tell you the most difficult thing you will have through the whole event is deciding which out of those three do you want to attend, because they are all just incredible presentations by key leaders within the organization. Ignite Your Talent Strategy is being presented by our park team, Joan Schatz and Kelly Hanson. Your Most Critical Asset, that talent leadership conversation, is being presented by the leaders of microbiologics, Brad Goskowitz and Aaron Fisk. And really, it is so insightful to listen to Brad tell the story about how he realized how important it was to have human resources at the leadership table. Partnerships to drive success and savings. As we alluded to, there are lots of partnerships, lots of opportunities that you can take advantage of as an employer to help drive this recruiting and retention piece. And Tammy Beery, Executive Director from Career Solutions, as well as Della Ludwig from DEED, are going to be presenting that workshop for you. Organizational change, position yourself for business growth. This is an opportunity to really identify the fact that, as an organization, you always need to be changing and growing. You can't just keep your model the same. And we are lucky enough to have leaders from CentraCare as well as Rejuve present on this topic. Again, very small organization with Rejuve and very large with CentraCare, and how they have had to retool their model to meet the needs of the community and their organization. And lastly, talent shortage, developing from within. Kelly and I have talked about the importance of development plans and succession planning for each of your associates. The team at UMC, I had my letters all mixed up, will be, Eric and Jackie will be presenting on this whole topic right now of succession planning and the importance of what it can mean for your organization. So the link is there, but you also can register for the Talent Summit. You do need to register. You can find that on our website, greaterstcloudjobspot.com, and you click under events, and it will have all of the information. So a lot more to come on that.
And SHRM credits too for that, right?
Yes, we just got the official word that you will receive 3 credits for attending the summit. So we are very excited about that.
And as HR professionals, we're always looking for that higher level conference or seminar to go to, and I can tell you with the lineup of these speakers, this sure is going to be that event.
So with that, we wanted to pop over to questions and see what we have for questions here for the last few minutes.
It's being recorded.
Yes, we are recording this seminar, or this webinar, excuse me, and it will be put out onto our website, greaterstgallowjobspot.com. Again, under where you're gonna, where you would register for our next webinar. So you can go out there. It'll take us a day or two to get it out there. So it will be out there for you to share with others. Or if you want to re-listen to Kelly and I because you've just enjoyed yourself so much, we encourage you to do so. Share it with your team. We would love for you to share it widely with anyone that you think might benefit from the conversation. So seriously, there's no other questions?
I know, come on, we want lots of questions.
I got to
so much
jump
more to
Kelly,
share.
otherwise we'll have to start singing happy birthday.
Or maybe not.
Because it's Kelly's birthday today. No. But I do want, as you're thinking about questions, I do have one other thing. Also, our next webinar is coming up on October 9th. So now that we have talked about attaining top talent, we've talked about HR strategic partnership, the last one we're going to talk about in October is retaining those rock stars. You know, we hear so many times that we hired great people, but we weren't able to retain them. Well, this webinar is going to talk about really some key ways, some companies that have very strategically developed plans in place to make sure they are retaining their top talent. And again, you know, workforce is a topic of conversation that is always a challenge. And again, part of it is just what kind of environment are your associates coming into once they join you. So you can sign up for that webinar at any point in time. That webinar is free, but again, you do need to register. For Talent Summit, there is a small registration fee, but as Kelly has highlighted, the quality of presenters is just so top notch. I'm just so incredibly thrilled that we've got these partners, and they're all local partners in the community that are willing to share all of their insights, their recommendations, and really partner with people to be able to help us all be more productive and more successful in the recruiting and retaining of our talent. So one last time, this is, Lucas pulled up the registration for Talent Summit. It is $40. However, if your organization is a GSDC investor, there is a half price reduction, or if you are a nonprofit, there is a half price reduction. If you need those reduction links, just shoot me an email and I would be more than happy to share those with you. One last time, if there's any questions for the group. Oh, there's.
Oh, that's a really good question, Nick, or Nicholas. So the question is, with changing HR models and you have management buy-in, but employee buy-in is struggling, coming along, how would you best approach ensuring the messaging to the employees? We dealt with that when I joined Park, to be honest, because they were so used to the employee champion, if you will. So Chad, who's still with us at Park, was in the HR role before, and he was very much the employee champion, and people came to Chad for anything and everything. And so we had to
Gail still does.
we've had to shift that, but it was still with the care for the employees first and foremost, but helping them learn there's other ways for us to service them. So in a good example, they're used to coming to HR continuously, but how can we give them tools and resources to get the information they need without us there? So going live with our new HR system, we did a lot of training for them. We gave them a lot of how-to guides and resources so they knew how to get to the information they needed, and they understood when they needed to engage us versus what they could do on their own. So it was a lot of empowerment for the employees. We heard a lot in the beginning, gosh, HR is adding all these people and they're never around and they're never available. That's being transparent and helping them know what you're doing. And, you know, the shop guys, I'll call them, because now we have 2 females on the shop floor, which is amazing. But they'll say, well, HR is never around, Kelly, where are you? And I'll explain to them what I'm doing. They're like, okay, we'll keep doing that. So when they know, when you're being open and transparent with them, they can understand and come alongside you. So you just have to build that same relationship with them that you have with management to help them understand where your focus is going to be, but not losing focus on them.
Exactly, and showing that you are, obviously 100% focused on what those associates are looking for and needing. And again, if you can't deliver what they're looking for, being very open and honest, why? Or maybe it's a work in progress. It's like, okay, Kelly, I can't make this work now, but I've got it on the table to discuss again at this time, or whatever the case might be. Again, if they know what's going on, they're definitely going to, again, come alongside and understand. Sometimes processes take a little bit longer, and again, I'm the first one to say I'm not very patient in many ways, but again, the true, involvement or just awareness, to your point, I think speaks so loudly as far as they will be more engaged if they know what you're doing and what your timeline is.
And it's making sure they have what they need when they need it, right? If I think back to when we were at Esler and we implemented the business partner model, we took HR out of the lab, and they actually had me work from home for a month. We don't want your face here. So we want them to get used to going and getting their information differently. And that was hard at first for me because I cared so much for them and I wanted to make sure I was giving them what they needed. But so you can find other ways to do that. My team's built a ton of that on our intranet so the associates can quickly go and get access to it. But let's make sure your associates have access to a computer to do that, right? So do we have the kiosks available? Maybe they're not technologically savvy. So what training have you provided them so they can be technologically savvy? Or do they have a buddy they can go to know how to get on? So you have to make sure you're giving them those tools, because if you just say, you know what, HR is a partner now and we're off doing this, but you're not still taking care of your most important asset, it's not going to work.
So the last thing that I wanted to share is up on the screen right now is Kelly's and my contact information. Certainly feel free to reach out to us if we can help and assist or direct or connect you to certain resources that might be available to really help grow this conversation. This is not a conversation and done. It is about, an initiative and an effort that we really want to help all of our employers feel that human resources is really that strategic partner at the table helping lead their organization. And in closing, the last thing that I wanted to share was, as many of you are aware, we have our greaterstcloud.com portal. And this was really designed as a community portal to really help meet the needs of the region. And the part I wanted to highlight, and I know Luke had it up here just a minute ago, is really the Greater St. Cloud, the first one on the left there. It's the community website. And we encourage you as human resource executives that if you are trying to recruit talent to the region, this is a great tool that is at your disposal to use. Just included in your information you send out to candidates. It really highlights what our community is all about, what they can do, quality of life, education. So if you are relocating talent to the region, which we hope you are, this is a great resource. Many employers in the past had said, well, we can tell our story, but we can't tell the community story. And that's why we created this portal. So please, I encourage you to use the site as you have need when you are recruiting, or even if you yourself might want to find out more about what's going on in the St. Cloud region, even to make you a stronger recruiter if you are, again, trying to attract that talent to the region. So it is yours to use. That is why we created it. Thank you to obviously our many sponsors that helped us make it what it is today. So, but with that, we thank you for your time. We hope you have found it helpful, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks for spending your lunchtime with us.